This is part 3 this morning of our sermon series. All things work together for good, starting at verse 24, chapter 8. Now in this hope we were saved, yet hope that is seen is not hope, because who hopes for what he sees? But if we hope for what we do not see, we eagerly wait for it with patience. In the same way, the Spirit also joins to help in our weakness, because we do not know what to pray for as we should. But the Spirit himself intercedes for us with unspoken groanings. And he who searches the heart knows the Spirit's mindset, because he intercedes for the saints according to the will of God. We know that all things work together for good of those who love God, those who are called according to his purpose. For those he foreknew, he also predestined to be conformed to the image of his Son, so that he would be the firstborn among many brothers. And those he predestined, he also called, and those he called, he also justified, and those he justified, he also glorified. All things work together for good. The key of this lesson this morning is that God can redeem anything. He can redeem our pain. He can redeem our mistakes, and he can redeem our waiting. The year was 2014, June 26, to be precise. Sometime shortly after 2 a.m., I received a phone call that changed my life forever. It was the nurse in the intensive care unit at Spartanburg Medical Center calling to inform me that we needed to get to the hospital as soon as we could, because our mama was passing. Upon our arrival, we were informed that she was already gone. As my brothers and I stood around her bed with our hands close to her heart, we prayed and thanked God for the wonderful gift of our mama. So began what was at that time the worst season of my life. The coming days brought sorrow in the midst of preparation. As plans were made for her homegoing, we wrestled with how or if we should tell Daddy, who was now at this point deep into dementia. As flowers were purchased, obituaries written, and programs outlined, the days for me ended in tears and despair. You see, the thing is, up to this point in my life, I thought I knew what loss was. I thought I knew what sorrow felt like. I thought that I knew despair. And even though I knew what it was to call out to God, I found out that what I thought it was to call out to God was nowhere near the calling out to God that I was about to do. But I had found out that what I thought was actually born out of my own inexperiences. What good could possibly come from such pain? I had not yet experienced enough to know what I needed to know. At that point in my life, I had been preaching every Sunday morning, ministering to families in loss for almost 14 years. I had been delivering eulogies and committing bodies to the grave, but I did not truly understand grief. So my ministry was still yet ineffective. But not only that, I was still unprepared for the trials and tribulations that would come after that season. Unprepared for the tears that I would shed. Unprepared for the uncertainty of life. But after that season, although I was still growing and still growing now, but after that season, I can say this morning, all things do work together. In that season, I wasn't even sure what God was doing. But now I can testify all things work together for good. Church, let me ask you something. Have you ever looked at your life and thought that this doesn't make sense. Maybe it was a painful loss you didn't see coming. Maybe it was a mistake so big you thought, I've blown it. There's no way God can still use me. Or maybe you're in a season of waiting where it feels like God is silent and nothing is moving forward. But then you come across Romans 8:28. And Paul hits you with a truth that almost sounds too good to be true. We know that all things work together for good of those who love God, those who are called according to his purpose. Did you catch it? It doesn't say some things. It doesn't say most things. It doesn't say things might work together. It doesn't say that things could work together. No, Paul says all things work together for good. Today, I want to show you what I've learned. And here it is. Even when I don't see him doing it, God is still doing it. And our first point this morning is about hope, because hope is what anchors us while we wait. And the text this morning, Romans 8:24 and 25 says, now in this hope we were saved. Yet hope that is not seen is not hope. Because who hopes for what he sees? But if we hope for what we do not see, we eagerly wait for it with patience. Here's some insight from the Greek. Hope, the word hope in the Greek, it means confident expectation. And to wait eagerly, it means to lean forward with anticipation. We hope for things that we don't see, because if we can already see them, why would we be hoping for them? He gives us this picture this morning of this confident expectation that things are going to change, that things are going to get better. But not only that, he tells us we need to lean forward in anticipation. That's sitting on the edge of your seat because you know that God is up to something big. God is up to something great. So you're sitting on the end of your seat just knowing that God is about to make a way. We are saved into this hope, but we're not yet there. The salvation is both already and not yet. We're waiting for the day when faith becomes sight and hope becomes reality. I'm saved and I'm on my way to heaven, but I'm still struggling down here. I know who God is. I know who Jesus is, but I'm still dealing with the disappointments of this world. And hope, it anchors us in the seasons of the delay and disappointment. Imagine standing behind a tapestry or one of those pictures that are woven into cloth. Or maybe it's something that's being knitted with yarn. When you stand behind these things, the only thing you see is a chaotic mess of threads, knots, tangles, loose ends. None of it makes sense. But on the other side, the weaver is creating a masterpiece. I come to tell you this morning that right now, you're standing at the back of the picture, and none of it makes sense. It doesn't look like it's coming together to be anything. You see knots, and you see strings, and you see different colors, but nothing makes sense. But God is on the other side of the tapestry. He sees the front. You see the mess, but God sees the final picture. You see the confusion, but God is standing in front and he sees the picture and he's saying to you, I want you to trust me, because from where I'm standing, things look beautiful. From where you are, things look messed up. There's confusion and there's hurt and there's pain. But God says, from this side where I'm standing, things, they look beautiful. Second point is the Spirit. It helps us when we're weak. The text in Romans 8:26 and 27. In the same way, the Spirit also joins in our weakness, because we do not know what to pray for as we should, but the Spirit himself intercedes for us with unspoken groanings. And he who searches the heart knows the Spirit's mindset, because he intercedes for the saints according to the will of God. Once again, let's look at the Greek. The word helps here, it means to take hold together with. So as we're dealing with this and we're going through our infirmities and we're in our weakness, it says that the Spirit in the same way also joins to help in our weakness. It takes hold together with. So as we're walking through this mess of life, the Spirit says, I'm coming in together with you and I'm going to walk together with you. I'm not going to leave you in this by yourself. In the groanings, it is a deep, unexpressible sigh. It's when you're so down and so low that the sigh that you have cannot even be heard. It's internal. It's on the inside. But God knows, because he who searches the heart is God the Father. The Spirit prays for us when we can't pray for ourselves in perfect alignment with the will of God. Even when we do not know how to pray as we should, the Spirit himself intercedes for us. Romans 8:34 reminds us that Jesus also intercedes for us at the right hand of the Father. So regardless of which way you turn, we're covered. The Spirit within us and the Son beside the Father. So when you can't find the words, don't worry. When you don't know how to express to God how you're feeling, don't worry. When you've run out of words to say, don't worry. When you've done all you can to figure it out and to put it out and to express it, don't worry. The Spirit has the words that you don't have. And your silence doesn't stop heaven's prayers. You not being able to explain it to God doesn't stop heaven's prayers, because the Spirit is explaining it to God for you. But God, he weaves it all together for us. Point 3, he weaves all things together for our good. Our main verse this morning, 8:28, says we know that all things work together for good of those who love God, those who are called according to his purpose. Let's look at that Greek insight again. Work together means to cooperate, or it means to weave, or it means to orchestrate. God weaves together. God cooperates together. God orchestrates. He makes things happen. And this does not mean everything that happens is good. That's not what I'm here to tell you this morning. I'm not here to tell you that everything that happens is good. Some things are painful, but God can redeem them and weave them into his perfect design. Even when life feels like chaos, the weaver's hands are steady. Paul says all things work together for good, but not for everyone. He's talking about those who love God, those who are called according to his purpose. That word call, it means more than just an invitation in the Greek. It means a divine summons. It's God himself initiating and drawing us into his plan. It's God bringing us into his purpose. The Greek word for purpose is prothesis. It literally means a plan set in advance. God is sovereign, and God's sovereign design to redeem, to restore, and to conform us to the image of Christ, just like Paul says in verse 29. So, this promise isn't random. It's not just for anyone. It's for those who belong to God, those who he has called and set apart for his plan. That's why we can trust him to work all things for our good. And you're not random. You're called. You're not an accident. You're aligned. You're not forgotten. You're part of his purpose, and you're part of his plan. I like to bake cakes sometimes. And this, all things work together for good, it's like making a cake. For most people, flour by itself doesn't taste too good. Raw eggs, I would even say that's disgusting. Baking powder has a bitter taste by itself. But you put them together, apply some heat, and something sweet comes out of the oven. It all has to be put together, and some heat has to be applied. Then something that you like comes out of it. And that's how it is for us in our life. We have all these things coming at us from all directions that don't feel good, that we don't like, that are uncomfortable. And they are not good for us in those moments. At the moment that we're standing in right then, it's not good. It's not good for us to be in grief. It's not good for us to be sad. It's not good for us to be broke. We can't fathom that in our head that that's something good. But God is taking those things because he loves us so much. And he's taking our disappointments, and he's taking our despair, and he's taking our pain and our heartache and our heartbreak and our financial storms and our sicknesses. He's taking all of these things and he's mixing them together. But I want you to also notice that heat is applied. So that means that we have to walk through some hot times, some tough situations. But it's the heat that's being applied to our situation that is making all those things that are uncomfortable for us come out to be something that's sweet to us. Even when I don't see it, God is still weaving it. God is still doing it. God can redeem anything. Your pain, your failures, your waiting. Back in Genesis chapter 50, verse 20, it says, you planned evil against me. God planned it for good to bring about this present result, the survival of many people. You remember that story, don't you, of young Joseph who stood before his brothers and he told them about a dream he had had. And then his brothers hated him and they sold him into slavery and they cast him down into a pit. And while he was down in the pit, here's Joseph dealing with the fact that his own flesh and blood had deserted him and left him because they hated his dream. Not only that, he was sold into slavery and he went into Egypt and he went into Potiphar's house and he became the chief servant there. And there he was accused of rape and he was thrown into prison. And there in prison, he interpreted the dreams of two people and those dreams came true. But he still sat there in prison, still confused. But one day Pharaoh had a dream and he needed it interpreted, and Joseph came and he interpreted the dream, and his dream was his interpretation was correct, and Pharaoh elevated him to second in command in the country. And there was a famine that came across the land. And people were hungry and their grain was destroyed. And because Joseph had interpreted the dream and set a plan in place to store up all this grain, his brothers had to come to him and ask for help. And when they came, they didn't recognize him. Years had passed. Joseph was now a grown man. They didn't recognize him, but Joseph knew them. And when he came before him, and he told them who he was, he told them this verse right here. What you did to me, you meant it for evil. But even back then, when you cast me into the pit, God knew that this day was coming. So what you meant for evil, God meant it for good. And because you cast me into that pit, because you sold me into slavery, because I was locked in prison, now here I am to provide food for the nations. So here's the thing. You never know what God is going to do with your pain. You never know what God is going to do with your despair. You never know what God is going to do with your loss. Because each and every one of these things build your testimony. And that's what I've learned to call them. I've learned to call these situations in life my testimony builders. Because we can't tell anybody something that we hadn't been through. So all these things that we go through, they are testimony builders. In these bad times, these hard times, God is one day going to use those situations for you to minister to somebody else. One day, God is going to use those situations for you to tell somebody about Christ. One day, God is going to use these situations. It could be like Joseph. You could go into this situation young and it could not happen to you old, but one day God is going to use your pain and your heartache and all of these things to bless somebody else, to help somebody else, to keep somebody else, to push somebody else. And I want you to remember this, that not just the nations were blessed because of Joseph. Joseph was blessed too. Joseph went straight from the prison to the palace. His pain did not go unrewarded. He went from a prisoner to being second in command in the country. He went from wearing prison clothes to being dressed in the finest robes with rings on his fingers. So after his mess, after his pain, he was blessed too. And then he blessed others. So here's what I've learned. Even when I don't see it, even when I don't feel it, even when it feels like God has forgotten about me, God is still doing it. He's still sitting on the throne. He still knows my cares and my concerns. Because even when I can't tell him, the Spirit tells him. The Spirit tells him about my pain. And it's one thing that I have found out about my God is that he loves me so much, he responds to my pain. He loved Israel so much. He told Moses, he said, I have heard the cry of my children. Go down and tell Pharaoh, let my people go. He saw us through all the generations lost in sin from Adam and Eve's transgressions. And he sought for a redeemer. And Christ says, I will go down and redeem mankind. I will go to the cross because he loves us. He sees our pains and he responds to our needs. I'm going to close this now. But if you would, I want y'all to say this closing declaration with me. Because this needs to be something that comes out of your mouth and something that you believe yourself. I can stand in this pulpit and I can preach it, but you got to believe it. I want you to hear it coming out your own mouth. So everybody, I want you to repeat after me. I've learned all things work together for my good. Not some things, not most things, all things. Because I love God and I'm called according to his purpose. That's what I've learned. God is an awesome, awesome, awesome God. And he loves you greatly. He has promised in his word that he will never leave you, nor will he forsake you. He will be with you to the very end. Have you tried him? Have you found out that he's faithful to his word? Do you believe him? Because I have seen my God make a way out of no way. I have seen the lightning flashing. I've heard the thunder roll. And I have heard God speak peace to my situations and bring peace to the storms. I know him to be a company keeper. I know him to be a doctor in the sick room. I know him to be a lawyer in the courtroom. I know him to be mother when mother is gone. I know him to be father when father is gone, because he is Alpha and Omega. He is the beginning and the end. He is the bright and the morning star. He is the first and the last. He is a lily in the valley. He is a wheel in the middle of the wheel. And he is my God. And Jesus is my Savior. And because he lives, I can face tomorrow. The doors of the church are open.